Hey mini RC car fans, so this just showed up in the mail. I didn't even realize what it was because it was just in a padded envelope. Anyways, it's a Turbo Racing police livery of their little tiny monster truck. It's called this, well technically it's the C82. They came out with the C81 beforehand. I decided to get this because I have a few ramps and a small track now because I got those, what are these things called? The S&T ones. And they're good. The van is no good. This one is the 2011 van. You want to avoid this. It's just too slow. It's worthless. The R27 Skyline though is pretty good. I've actually ordered 2 of them now. Speaking of which, look at this packaging. I mean, this vehicle's only that big, and they have this giant box because they future-proofed it for a 1/43rd scale crawler that just came out. But I think it'd just be better if it had a smaller box, right? So this is great that it's just in this tiny little thing. Alright, let's open this up. Oh, it's a crack though. It's just in a padded envelope, but I don't care. I'm never going to display this thing in this thing anyway, so for me it was just to protect it from shipping damage, and that's what it did. It does have actual printing here on the base. Let's see how we get this off. This metal thing is to bind it. One thing I don't like is this bind process, using some sort of piece of metal to jump some contacts within the car itself. One great thing about that S&T is you don't have to do any of that. You just press a button on the remote and it binds it. So the programming from S&T seems a little bit better. There's 2 tiny screws, I think, holding this down. Possibly. I mean, what else? Unless there's like some sort of flip switch. Let's see if this does anything. Well, that probably takes you to the instruction manual. I can only assume that I actually have to remove these 2 screws. I could be wrong, but that's why we're doing this video. I'm gonna find out. And these are really tiny screws, so you gotta have like a jewelry screwdriver set or one of those little electronic screwdriver sets. Yeah, okay. So that literally was holding it. That's interesting. It's not like some sort of snap-on, claw. It literally is threading into that hole and that hole. So it charges with a Type-C connector, so that's great. And then here's the on-off switch. And then if you need to bind it, this is the hole. And you might be able to see there's a little shininess in this. Shininess in there. There's 2 metal contacts, and this bridges the gap and puts it into bind mode. But let's see it. I won't know until I turn it on. This is an adapter. You can put it on the controller, I believe, to charge the thing right off the controller. And then it also comes with a short cable as well. So that's good that they gave you all these little things in such a small package. It's really great. Okay, let's turn this on. Well, you know what? Let's measure this thing. It's so tiny, it's crazy. First, I was curious, how heavy is this? It is only 20 grams. So that's pretty light, of course. Then, how big is this thing? Overall length, 53, so a little over 2 inches. And then the width of the thing, 40. So that's pretty cool. I don't know if the height really matters to you, but with the lights, roughly, that's a hard one to measure, but around an inch, a little over an inch, or 28 millimeters if I had to guess. Okay, so really tiny guy, and this is why I got it. I just want to run it in my apartment, but I want to be able to jump stuff that the road cars can't do. Here are the other 2 Turbo Racings, by the way. This is my first one. This is great for an actual desktop cruiser. It's so small you can really run it on your desk. Then I commend them for making a drift car, but I don't have the patience to try to balance out the weight. The way it's designed, it just seems to spin faster in one turning direction than the other, which really you don't want to have, especially on a drift car. Alright, so I'm just too impatient to use this anymore. It looks nice though. Alright, so these definitely look like they would be 1/76 scale as far as their proportioning goes. Mini, pretty small This is a bit different though. I wouldn't call this a monster truck in 1/76 scale. I suppose possibly the body is, like a truck, but it wouldn't be a big truck even. It'd be more like a Jeep Wrangler or something, a short Jeep Wrangler, not a full-size pickup truck, like an F-150. So it's kind of weird that they would call it a monster truck. They should just call it like a racing truck instead, like a Baja Racer or something. You'll notice the tires are massive, which is really good for bashing around on my tiny little living room floor. I mean, it's literally like over 2 times as big as far as width goes, and almost in height. It's almost 2 times as big in general. So that's pretty cool. It's neat that both of these actually have treads. Okay, and I think it must have some suspension. Yeah, it does, so that's good, but it's only on the front. The rear is a solid axle. And then let's turn it on. Yeah, so they got some LED headlights searching for the radio, but nothing yet. So I'm gonna get my controller out here. Put these two away over here for now. Yeah, so it's not bound to anything, so I think I gotta bridge this gap and the lights will change their sequence. So I think it's flashing fast now, looking for the controller. Okay, yeah. So it's not difficult to do. It's just that I prefer, just pressing a button on the controller and it says bind, which is what the S&T ones do. Okay, well, anyways, well, since we got the stuff here, let me hit focus. Well, unfortunately, no, high riding there on the cable. Yeah, I wouldn't really call this a monster truck. It's actually very fast too. I can tell just by already how fast it is. It's possible I can actually have all three of these running off of this controller. This thing. I'm going to turn off this because that's bound already. I'm going to bridge the gap on this one. Okay, turn on the controller. Okay, let's turn that one off. And let's turn on the Mini. I took out the LEDs because they did a body swap. Alright, so that's bound. I'm going to do a little tabletop race here. The drift car's not going to go anywhere because it's just going to burn out. So you can just see. Hold on a second. Alright, gotta line these up with a ruler. And you can just see this truck haul off here. 3, 2, 1. Alright, so it is significantly faster than this. Yeah. And then of course this is a drift car, so you can't really count that so much. It's not meant to go fast, it's meant to drift. Okay, well, where'd that thing go? So there should be some lights that I can turn on. Let's see here, channel 3. Yeah, so there's some red and blue police lights in the grill, and then it's kind of flashing. Same in the rear. That does it. I'm looking for the lights with the turn signal. So off. No turn signal. On. I felt like the Mini had turn signals, but I guess this one does not. So if I let go of this accelerator, I wonder if it has brake lights. So far it did not. So let me turn these all off. I don't see any brake lights. Sorry, losing focus. Right? I don't see any turn signals. Not that I really care so much. It's, I guess, a nice gimmick to have. I mean, if it already exists on this electronics board, and I think the drift car also may have had it. I don't know why they would get rid of it. Alright, anyways, let's see if we can get those top lights on. Just gonna hold the button down. No. So I don't know what's going on, if there's a short circuit, but I believe these lights are actually supposed to turn on. And there's no other channel, right? There's no other... Oh, maybe this thing now has a new radio. This is an old radio, so maybe there's a 4-channel radio out there. But, oh well. I just want to drive the thing. I don't really care about it having all these extra lights. So I plugged in the cable, and that's how you know it's charging. There's just a little red flashing light. You can still use the remote while it's plugged in. Yeah, so that thing's still charging. So when I turned the car off, it just went to a solid red light. I'm still assuming that means it's charging. So when it's on, the light seems to flash because it's consuming power. But when it's off, it's just a solid red. Well, I dug out the controller for the drift car, and that does have the additional switches for the extra lights and stuff. Well, basically, there's a channel 4 here. That's what's going to allow me to use the lights. I already bound it. So yeah, channel 3 now is just going to be the same as what we saw before. But now we have channel 4, and it's just one position switch turns it all on. 2 makes them flash. And that happens in the back too, so that's kind of neat. This switch is very annoying to use, by the way. It's very easy to pass the middle mark. So anyways, it definitely is cool if you want to, impersonate a police vehicle in 1/76 scale. Okay, but yeah, it's still charging. If I recall, it's supposed to take like 40 minutes, I think, on the drift car or something like that. So this might be a while. So that adapter we saw before, this newer controller here with the 4 channels, if you slide this switch, you can actually charge vehicles off of this. But this thing has the taller tires, so that's why they give you this. So you have to pop that in. Alright, so that rests there, and then yeah, so it is charging. But what I don't like is this takes 4 AAA batteries. And the SNT one can have an optional 18650 with a little modification. So I much prefer the SNT controller. And this whole sliding mechanism is kind of unnecessary. The SNT one just plugs right into the back. So here it is next to the SNT R27. And they're roughly around the same footprint, but the S&T has really narrow tires, so I think it's going to lose out in a drag race, but let's see what happens. I have the S&T set at 100% speed, so it might actually just spin out as well. So, hold on. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, so, essentially, today's subject is faster, because it has wider tires. It can get the power to the ground. Whereas, hold on, let's take a closer look here. I mean, look at the difference in tires. So if you actually want something fast to run around indoors, this is the way to go. But the main benefit that I probably still prefer this is it actually has the FPV system, which makes driving very easy. It's like magnitudes easier to drive through the goggles. So that's just my experience, but maybe it's different for you. Okay, I already reviewed this. You know, it can jump over stuff, but it doesn't. It's not really designed for jumping. It can eventually get over a ramp, but it's just not. It's a little bit clumsy. So I'm hoping that's why I bought this. Well, let's find out. So that drag race was at 100%, but I thought I'd just show you the slower speeds here. So this is 20%. And I think it's a pretty good speed. It's actually pretty fast for 20%, according to this. Does that actually say 20%? Yeah, that says 20, right? This switch up here. I feel like that's actually pretty fast for a beginner. You know, someone that's never used an RC car. But anyways, all the traction's getting to the ground. Yeah. Oh, it actually handled that landing. That's impressive, but I didn't. It's not going to clear this jump. No. Let's try that again at 20%. Unfortunately, this cat is obstructing my... Yeah. So, it obviously won't bridge that gap. Okay. So, I'm going to switch to 50%. I just want to show you one last time 20%. Okay, let's switch over to 50. There we go. It's definitely faster. Change the line of sight. Nope. Yeah, it's not going to bridge that gap. I'm not sure if it's going to do it at 100 either. Okay, well, let's switch over to 100% now. So now we have full throttle. I have everything pretty much maxed out to 10. Alright, so now that is actually quite zippy. Whoa. Yeah, that's actually very... It's so small, it feels really fast. I can't even line up the jump. Wow. I think I'm going to have to slow down the steering. Whoa, that did a barrel roll. Now I have the steering really slow. My steering rate is probably down to 30%. This is the steering amount of steering power. It says STDR or something. I set up a track using PVC pipes. You can see some laying around. It was too tight, and I had a hard time navigating the track. I found that it's really difficult to figure out the throttle, the maximum speed versus steering rate on a tight track. If it's full speed and you have a slow turning rate, you have a hard time going through the track unless obviously you modulate the throttle very well. So I just got rid of the track. I want to show you, it can go over these little rubber obstacles. These are like course borders. And I found that the S&T cars I have can't go over those rubber things. But this clearly can because it has the ground clearance, right? So it's not going to get stopped by as many little obstacles. And the S&T ramps, I decided to glue some 80 grit sandpaper to them. So now my S&T cars should be able to go over them easier. And I added some walls to them as well, just to keep the car from going off the side of the ramp and crashing. So I find that to be very useful if you happen to have the S&T ramps. I tried them, you know, just individually. It's really hard to hit the ramp. Yeah, it's really hard to hit one of the ramps individually because they're just not very wide. Come on, get out of here. Get out of here. This cat's not afraid of anything. So you can see the punch that it had. You know, I was already on the end of the ramp. Here, let's do that again. My steering rate is pretty slow. Look at that. It's like a jumping insect or something, right? So this thing is got some serious punch, which is really impressive for something this small. Let's try that again. So pretty neat. The things you discover playing with toys. You know, I'm having a hard time, Mr. Cat. The reason why that rolled over is the ramp itself. You know, they're different angles. So there's literally a ridge in those, you know. This is pretty much starting a rollover. So if I hit it right in the middle, yeah, it actually landed. Oh, I hit the wall. Okay, well, anyways, I think it's pretty good. I'm really happy to have it. As far as drivability goes, it's definitely the best one that they've come out with. Granted, the drift car is a whole different animal. You really can't compare this to a drift car. But the Mini Cooper thing is just very slow. So I guess they've covered all the bases. A slow desktop runner is the Mini Cooper. The drift car is that. And then this is just for actually running around like a normal RC car. But it's so pleasantly small, you know, that you can have a lot of fun indoors. I would also recommend if you ever run anything and you have a pet, you gotta vacuum the floor because the hair will just get caught up in these axles very quickly. So, okay guys, well, I know there's tons of other videos on this thing, but hopefully you may have learned something at least about its ability to run over these rubber things and the ramps. Some tips on the ramps. Okay, thanks for watching guys. I'll see you in the next RC car video.